What's up, fam? It's me, and I'm back. And the reason why I'm back so soon is because, first of all, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everybody's being smart. I hope everybody's is having conversations and staying awoke and staying aware. I hope everybody's staying on code. And for those of you who are not on code, I hope you are seriously deciding to get on code because there's a lot going on. And we can expect there to be more, okay? But the reason why I'm coming to you is because I think it's a subscriber. I'm not exactly sure. But someone, I think it's either M1 or ML Moore, actually sent me a video of Ben Crump responding to the press conference that Daniel Cameron did last Wednesday concerning the indictments and all of that in the Breonna murder case. So I looked at this video. I've already looked at it a couple of times, and I'm just listening, and I'm like, okay, there are some things here that we need to dissect. But I decided that instead of dissecting them by myself, that I would come on here and I would dissect them with you guys. And I would let you hear this for yourself in case, for those of you who haven't seen this interview that he did with CBS this morning, I decided that I would come on here and we would listen to this together and we would dissect certain portions of what Ben Crump had to say. We would dissect those things together. So let me open it up, but I want to open it up on YouTube.
The show on earth always demands your very best. And here it is in the middle.
Okay.
Ben Crump, the attorney representing.
Hold on, because I'm not ready.
Joining us now is Ben Crump, the attorney.
Okay, we get
Ben
that.
Joining us.
But this was uploaded by CBS this morning, September the 24th, 2020. So this is his reaction to the grand jury decision not to bring charges in the murder of Breonna Taylor. Now, of course, this interview was before some of the stuff has come out since Daniel Cameron did that press conference last Wednesday. There's some more stuff that has come out. We've already talked about it. We've already done videos on it. Other people are doing videos on it where they're talking about the grand juror that has come forward, the grand juror that has broken their vow of silence and secrecy to bring out a whole lot of stuff. We know that a lot of lies have been told. We know now that there's a cup that even Breonna Taylor's family's attorneys were a part of this whole setup and this whole plan to do whatever needed to be done to keep these cops from being punished and to keep these cops safe. And we even know that Ben Crump had to be a part of that too, because just like we said in our video last night, Ben Crump is a part of that whole legal team for Breonna Taylor's family. It's him, Sam Aguilar, and this lady. I can't think of her name right now. Anita, I think her name is Anita Baker or something like that. So all three of them had to have known what evidence Kendrick Wilson was pulling together, what he was turning over to them, and all of that. And knowing all of that, they were still willing to sign this settlement agreement, which included a clause that said they had to destroy all the evidence that they had collected in their investigation. So it's going to be interesting to listen to what Ben Crump said then, now based on what we know. Based on the part that we know, even him and Breonna Taylor's other family's attorneys, the parts that they played in all of this, in covering up this evidence, in covering up this information, not calling the attorney general out. You understand what I'm saying? Because in this interview, Ben Crump does not say anything about any of that evidence. Now you have to understand, this is after the settlement, and this is after the attorney general has announced, after Cameron has announced that there are not going to be any charges other than that wanton endangerment mess. So this is after all of that. So Ben Crump could have easily put some of that out there, put some of that information out there, and called Daniel Cameron to the mat on it, but he didn't. So this is not about me running my mouth. This is about y'all hearing what Ben Crump had to say. So I just wanted to maximize my screen, and let's take a good listen.
Now is Ben Crump, the attorney representing Breonna Taylor's family. Good morning, Mr. Crump. You said a week ago that at a minimum, the 3 officers should be charged with second-degree manslaughter. What do you make of the Kentucky Attorney General's explanation as to why none of them were charged with Breonna Taylor's death?
Breonna Taylor's family, as do me and my co-counsels, Lanita Bacon and Sam Aguiar, we think it's just outrageous. It's offensive. We're still trying to figure out what evidence did Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron present to that grand jury. Did he present any evidence on behalf of Breonna Taylor? Because if he didn't, he unilaterally decided.
Now, I want to stop right there, and let's dissect that right there. When this news reporter, and I don't know this man's name, this is the new, I guess this is the new male anchor that's sitting with Gayle King now that Charlie Rose is no longer there. But anyway, when this man asks Benjamin Crump this question, and Crump goes into talking about what kind of evidence could Cameron have possibly presented to the grand jury? Did he present any evidence to the grand jury concerning Breonna Taylor and all this? This was the perfect opportunity for Ben Crump, because like I said, at this point, you have to understand. You have to understand at this point that the settlement is already done. And the grand jury has already made their decision. So at this point, what was keeping Crump on being asked that specific question? What was keeping him from throwing out there some of the evidence that he knew was a part of this case, some of the evidence that he knew Kendrick Wilson had come up with and had delivered to them? And remember, in the recording last night, we heard Sam Aguilar say that they had turned all of that evidence, everything that Kendrick Wilson had turned over to them, that they had turned all of that over to Daniel Cameron. So it would not, and remember, Kendrick said, okay, well, if you turned it all over to Daniel Cameron, why didn't you call him out? So this would have been the perfect opportunity, since you got Crump sitting here acting like he just so bewildered and he's so surprised and he just don't understand what kind of evidence Daniel Cameron could have possibly presented to the grand jury for them to come back with this no indictments except for this or wanton endangerment mess. This was the perfect opportunity for him to put some of that out there and for him to call Daniel Cameron out. And for him to say, we know for a fact that this happened or that occurred. You understand what I'm saying? Because we have the evidence and we presented that evidence to Daniel Cameron. But he didn't do that. Okay? Let's go back a little bit.
We're still trying to figure out what evidence did Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron present to that grand jury. Did he present any evidence on behalf of Breonna Taylor? Because if he didn't, he unilaterally decided that he was going to exonerate these police officers and that Breonna would never get due process, that she would never get justice. And so we are demanding.
So see, that was his perfect opportunity to say when he said, well, we want to know, what evidence did he present? Because we know the evidence that we turned over to him. You know what I'm saying? We know that we turned over the evidence of the police officer, Hankinson, being in Breonna Taylor's apartment after the shooting, when he was not supposed to be anywhere near the crime scene. We know of that evidence. We know of evidence where Cosgrove was walking around out there with a rifle. We know that LMPD protocol was not followed after this killing, as far as separating these three who were involved in the shooting, separating them and having a commander with each one of them or somebody with them the whole time to keep them away from the active investigation. See, these are things that Crump could have just thrown out there and could have said, we just wonder if any of this evidence was presented to the grand jury. But he didn't say anything about any of that. And this was the perfect opportunity for him to call Daniel Cameron to the mat. This was the perfect opportunity for him to say, yes, because we know what evidence we turned over to him. But he didn't do that. Let's keep listening.
That he released that transcript so we can see if there was any evidence. Did Breonna have any voice in that grand jury proceeding?
The Attorney General spoke to Breonna Taylor's family yesterday, did he not? What did he say?
He spoke to them about 10 minutes before everything was released to the public, and he did not go into the nuance. They were not told that the wanton endangerment charges were for the white neighbor's apartment and not for Breonna's apartment. Did not tell them that there were no charges for the bullets going into Breonna's body. Did not tell them that the black neighbors that had bullet go into their apartment did not have any wanton endangerment charges. So it really underscores the fact that there just seems to be two justice systems in America, one for white America and one for black America. And this was shown yet again in this grave miscarriage of justice.
Now, not only is he not, putting anything out there, not really calling anybody to the mat, not really, expressing what's going on, but he's also sending out them, what do they call them? Dog whistles to white supremacy, to the white supremacists, and letting them know, yeah, I'm going to speak a little bit, but I'm not going to go too far and I'm not going to say too much. You notice he just says, there seems to be. I want you to hear that again. Hold on.
One for white America and one for black America.
Here we go.
Was the fact that there just seems to be two justice systems in America. One for white America and one for black America.
There just seems to be. Now, you a man that have run around for years going to these black families whose children's brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and all of that. These black people who have been killed unarmed in the streets, unjustifiable by these race soldiers. You've been doing this for years, and you've made a whole lot of money doing it. So you know what's going on in the justice system. You know that there's two different systems for white and for black. You know this. But you get on here and you put out that dog whistle. There just seems to be two justice systems, one for white and one for black. Letting the white supremacists know. Now, I'm going to put a little something out here, but I'm not going to go too far. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to say too much. Because you have to understand what we found out, what I found out, and many of you found out if you listen to Tariq like I do, that there was this case, I believe it was in Baltimore, of this black woman. Her name is Overby. I can't remember the last name, but it was something. It was Overby something. This black woman had won a settlement against some race soldiers that had beat her and tased her and all of this when she called in a robbery back in 2012. And they settled the case in 2014 for $63,000. Well, they held back, and I'll try to find the article on this and put it in the description box. They held back half of her money because they said that she had broken the gag order. Well, what they actually called it in the article was a non-disparagement clause in the settlement agreement, where she was not supposed to say anything negative or anything disparaging about the police officers. And because she had done that, and how it happened was people were calling her out, and people were saying on social media that she had only made this call so that, you know, she could get this big settlement, this big payout and all of this. And she went on social media and did a couple of interviews and refuted that. And, you know, and she had a few choice words for the police. So they claimed that they used that to say that she had broken the gag order, that she had broken this non-disparagement clause that was in the agreement. And because of that, they withheld half of her settlement. Even after the court ruled that these agreements were unconstitutional. Even after that, the city still tried to fight, giving her the rest of her money. So that just goes to show that they do have these clauses in these settlements. When police officers are involved, they do have these clauses in these settlements that say you can't speak ill of the police. You can't speak bad on the police. You understand what I'm saying? You got a gag order. You're supposed to get your money and go somewhere and sit down. Then we just read last night that there was a clause we know for a fact in this agreement with Breonna Taylor's family where the attorneys had to agree to destroy all the evidence that they had collected in the case. Her family's attorneys, Crump, Aguilera, and this Lolita Baker woman, they had to agree that they would destroy all the evidence that they had collected in the case. That was part of the settlement. So just maybe, is that the reason why Ben Crump is not on here putting out some of this evidence that they had? Is that the reason why he's not calling out Daniel Cameron and saying, well, we know you had this evidence and we know you had that evidence. And what we want to know is, did you present any of this evidence to the grand jury? So you see Crump, you see Crump stepping real careful and wording what he says real careful, because he wants to let white supremacy know, I'm still on the payroll. I'm still on the team. You know, I'm going to say what I got to say in front of these cameras, but I'm still on the team. So I'm not going to say that there is definitely two different criminal justice systems in America, one for white and one for black. I'm not going to say that. You know, I'll just throw it out there that there just seems to be. Okay, let's keep going.
And this was shown yet again in this grave miscarriage of justice. Just grave miscarriage of injustice.
You know, Ben, we talked to Kenneth Walker's attorney in the last hour, and he told us that he feels it's a cover-up. Would you use that phrase too?
Well, I think it was a sham proceeding, and that's why we're demanding, Gail, that...
Now, you notice, he wouldn't go as far as to call it a cover-up. Now, Kenneth Walker's attorney said that as far as he was concerned, it was a cover-up. As far as everybody is concerned, it's a cover-up. And now, since this interview, more information has come out to prove that it was a cover-up. But you see, Ben Crump is being real careful. He's being real careful that he don't cross that line. Because he knows white supremacy has an eye on him. He knows that it's through this white supremacy system that he gets his bread and butter, and he's able to make $2 or $3 million per case or per settlement or whatever. So he's being real careful that he don't cross a specific line. So, yeah, he'll say it was a sham proceeding. Now, he won't say that the whole investigation, all of it was a sham. All of it was a cover-up. He won't say that. He'll just say that it was a sham proceeding.
That this grand jury transcript is released so people can see if anybody spoke for Breonna in that grand jury proceeding, because black women lives matter and Breonna Taylor life matters. The fact that not just black people, but...
Now, you know I got to hit that. And you know I got to hit that. Because he's been doing that throughout this thing. He's been trying to act like black folks are ignoring the black women that have been unjustly murdered and executed by these race soldiers. He's been trying his best to stick to that divide, where he's going to do this gender divide thing between black men and black women. But right there was his perfect opportunity to show that one of the hardest riders in this whole case, in justice for Breonna, has been a black man, Kendrick Wilson. The person who tried to save Breonna by firing that warning shot and not only putting her in danger, but putting himself in danger, was a black man, Kenneth Walker. But he just wants to keep on with this black women's lives matter. Of course black women's lives matter. All black life matters. All the folks that are out marching and rioting and protesting, they're doing it because all black lives matter. Not just men, not just women, not just heterosexual, not just this demographic or that demographic, but all black life matters. But once again, that's another dog whistle that he's sending out to white supremacy. I'm still on the team. You understand what I'm saying? I'm still on the job. I'm going to try to make this about gender and bring this down to being about gender. Again, refusing to point out specifically that it's two black men now who have risked their lives in trying to protect Breonna and trying to get justice for Breonna. Again, failing to mention that Jamarcus Glover, when he had the opportunity to have all of his charges pretty much dropped, to have that whole case gone, all he had to do was implicate Breonna. He didn't even have to say that she was actually a part of any actual drug dealing. All he had to do was implicate her in this whole so-called drug syndicate that he was supposed to be running. And that 10 years would have went away, and he could have walked away with probation. He refused to do it. Another black man that stood up, that would not sell a black woman out for his own benefit. But right here, when Crump had the opportunity to bring some unity to black to black men and black women, he chose to continue to try to push this gender divide thing and try to act like this is a situation about black women. No, this is a situation about black people being killed in the street with impunity, and these race soldiers knowing that they can walk away from it. But instead of him using this for that and to point out that we see at least 3 black men, Jason Black is a black man who spent his own money, not corporate money, not money that he got off of some corporation or some $1 million corporation that was funding him like Oprah Winfrey did. But this is a black man that spent his own money to have billboards put up in Louisville about Breonna Taylor. So it's black men that have been riding as far as Breonna Taylor is concerned, as far as all of these black women who have been killed in the street by race soldiers. But instead of Ben Crump using that opportunity to bring black folks together, to using this national platform, to bring black folks together, to unite black men and black women, and to show black women that, yes, black men are willing to risk their lives for you, he chose to try to keep on with that gender divide stuff. Again, another dog whistle, letting white supremacy know I'm still on the team. I'm still on the job. Let's keep going.
If you are a parent of a daughter, a parent of a child, you should be trusted. You are a parent of Life Matters. The fact that not just black people, but if you are a parent.
There you go again. Not just black people. Okay, well, what are we talking about? Because we're not talking about anybody else. Because this is not happening to anybody else. This is not happening to any other group of people. This is not happening to any other ethnicity in the United States of America. This is only happening to black people. Again, those dog whistles, again, letting white supremacy know, don't worry, I know how far to go. I know what lines not to cross.
Of a daughter, a parent of a child, you should be troubled by this because Tamika Palmer's daughter, Breonna Taylor, was killed in the sanctity of her own home, and our legal system, our criminal justice system is trying to say it's justified, it's okay. And, you know, just because they say it's legal, Gail, that don't make it right. We know throughout history, they have said things are legal, but that don't make it right.
Yeah, and that's what I keep thinking. I keep thinking about the family today, Ben, and how they're processing their grief while they are still calling for peace. It's not okay that 2 Louisville police officers were shot in the streets. Luckily, they're going to be okay. But how is it?
Now there she go sounding the dog whistle. There she go letting white supremacy know, I'm not going to go too far. Don't worry, I'm not going to cross the line. Let's show our support for the police. Let's show our support for the boys in blue. Let's show our support for white supremacy, because that's what law enforcement is, white supremacy. Let's show our support for them. Let's let it be known. Let's make it clear. Oh, it's not right that 2 police officers were shot. So that's her, because again, those are her paymasters. That's where she gets her bread and butter from. And nobody mentioned the Louisville Police Department. Nobody mentioned any police officers being shot. Nobody mentioned that. She took it on herself to bring that up and throw that out there, because she know white supremacy is listening. Her paymasters are watching, and she wanted to make sure that they understood, okay, I might be sounding like I feel some type of way, but I know better than to cross these lines. I know better than to say too much.
The family processing their grief. They're awarded $12 million. So on some level, somebody thought that they had been wronged in this particular case. To have no charges, nobody held accountable for the death of their daughter.
You know, Gail King, that is the hard thing. The civil settlement was very significant on many fronts. It set a precedence for systematic reform and speaking to the value of black women's lives in society.
Now there he go again. First of all, what precedent did it set? What systematic reform? We already know that you can't reform white supremacy. And if you can't reform white supremacy, then you can't reform police. You can't reform law enforcement. So what significant reforms are we supposed to see come out of this? Because we sure ain't seen no punishment come out of it. We sure ain't seen no affirmation of Breonna Taylor's civil rights come out of it. Because based on her civil rights, just like you just said, she was murdered in the sanctity of her own home. She wasn't shot in the commission of a crime. She wasn't shot just 2 or 3 minutes after she had committed a crime. She was shot in the sanctity of her home at almost 1 o'clock in the morning after she had just been rudely awakened by the sound of people banging into her door and folks arguing outside of her apartment. So what precedent did this set? So now the police officers know that they can go head on and they can continue to kill black folks with impunity. They can break on in your house and kill you when they get ready to. It ain't going to be no punishment. They're not going to be handled for it. You understand what I'm saying? But the citizens will be expected to pay out a big settlement to the family so that the family will be quiet, so that the family won't speak ill against the police, so that the family won't talk about racism and white supremacy in law enforcement. So what's the precedent? That you give them more incentive to do what they're doing. Because again, just like Tariq said, that money is not coming out of the police pocket. It's not even coming out of the law enforcement budget. That settlement money comes from taxpayers. So know the police unions, they don't lose a thing. The city doesn't even really lose anything. Any funds that might have been allocated to go to the black community, to go to black schools, to go to roads in the black community, to go to investments in the black community as far as jobs and businesses are concerned or whatever, well, all of those funds will now be diverted to cover this $12 million. And then the city gets $500,000 of that back, talking about to be allocated for police reform. And talking about it shows the value of a black woman's life in America. So now we're putting a monetary value on a black person's life. Now you can measure a black person's the value of their life in dollars and cents, because that's basically what he just said. He basically just said that all Breonna Taylor's life was worth was $12 million. It wasn't priceless like life is supposed to be. It was only worth $12 million. So now we can put a value on the lives of black women. And again, he continues to try to stress that gender divide. Like there aren't black men out there supporting and riding for and riding with this whole thing to get justice for Breonna Taylor. So how do you put a monetary value on somebody's life?
However, as Tamika Palmer said, she wanted accountability, these officers to be held accountable, so it would serve as a deterrent so we can prevent future Breonna Taylor.
And you notice they all keep saying wanted these officers to be held accountable. Want these officers to be held accountable. They want these officers to be held accountable. Nobody uses the word, well, these folks, none of these folks use the word punished. When they talking about the average criminal on the street, they don't talk about, well, we're going to hold you accountable for shooting that person. Or we're going to hold you accountable for robbing that store. Or we're going to hold you accountable for grand theft auto. No, they talk about punishing you. Taking your freedoms away from you. Taking your access to certain things away from you. And locking you up. And putting you in a cage. They talk about punishment when it's the average citizen, especially when that average citizen is somebody black. But when you get to talking about these police officers running around here murdering people in cold blood and going up in people's houses murdering folk and all of that, then all of a sudden is we got to hold them accountable. No, they need to be punished. Just like any other criminal. Just like any other thug. Just like any other gang member. Because that's all they are. Members of this gang in blue.
She is trying to define the legacy of her daughter in the chaos of all of this. Yeah. And she really wants that legacy to be to prevent these unjustifiable killings of people of color with nobody being held accountable.
There he goes again. These unjustifiable killings. Because you notice if you look through news media, that's what they call all of these. When these police officers, when these race shoulders gun somebody down in the street or go in somebody's home and kill people unjustifiably, they don't call it murder. They call it killings, shootings. So see, he's making sure that he uses these code words. He's making sure that he uses these dog whistles to white supremacy to let white supremacy know I'm still on code with you. These unjustifiable killings of people of color. What people of color are being murdered like this? I don't see none but black people being murdered like this. I don't see people of color being murdered like this. Let you hear that again.
This, yeah. And she really wants that legacy to be to prevent these unjustifiable killings of people of color with nobody being held accountable.
There it is again.
Yesterday, the attorney...
Unjustifiable killings of people of color with nobody being held accountable. Not these unjustifiable murders of black people with nobody being punished. See, if you say it that way, it's too real. It's too harsh. White supremacy ain't going to accept that. So you got to water it down. And you got to call these murders just mere killings. Unjustifiable killings. Of not just black people, but people of color. Now you got to make it a generalized thing. Although they're not generalizing when they target us. They're very specific when they target us. But when you talk about it, so that you won't make white supremacy uncomfortable, and so that you won't be on the wrong side of white supremacy, you got to water it down. And they got to be called justifiable killings of people of color without anybody being held accountable.
General, for the first time, said that they had a witness who claimed that the police announced themselves before they went in. We had not heard that before. Had you heard that before?
We had heard that before, but I want to put this in proper perspective. Our legal team have 12 witnesses, 12 neighbors that say they did not hear the police knock and announce. And this alleged witness that they keep presenting, he apparently gave 2 previous interviews where he said he didn't hear the police.
And it's not he apparently gave 2 previous interviews. They have the recordings. Vice has the recordings. Everybody can hear him. He gave 2 previous interviews where he clearly stated that nobody identified themselves. See, just all of this rambling. You know what I'm saying? Instead of just saying what's got to be said, instead of just coming to the point and being specific about it. That's that dog whistling to white supremacy to let them know we still on code. We ain't crossing no lines.
It's not going to announce.
Exactly.
So if Daniel Cameron only presented his perspective and didn't present the other 12 neighbors, then he has unilaterally made a decision on whether or not Breonna would ever get due process, whether she would ever get justice, and that is not right.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker's attorney made that same point, that this witness has apparently changed her story, and it's called a no-knock warrant for a reason, because the reasoning is that you don't announce yourself. And all the several witnesses who were there that night, including Kenneth Walker, when you hear him on that 911 tape after it happened, he said he had no idea who these people were who came into his apartment. He thought he was acting in self-defense to save himself and Breonna Taylor. There are still many, many questions on this case, and I know that you are still working very hard. Thank you, Ben Crump, for joining us this morning. We really appreciate your time.
And that's it, y'all. That's the end of the interview. That's the end of the interview. And in listening to Ben Crump, because this is the first time that I've ever just listened to him go through a lengthy interview, or an interview of any length. You know, I've heard him speak a couple of times, and I've heard him say, you know, maybe a paragraph or 2, but this is the first time that I've just actually listened to him. And to be quite honest, I'm gonna tell you what he sounds like to me. To me, he sounds like a pastor. That's what he sounds like to me. He sounds like a preacher. And after what we know about preachers, and after we know what white supremacy how white supremacy has used preachers and pastors and the black church and all of that, that's not a compliment. But that's what he sounds like to me. He sounds like a preacher. But that was just this interview. Like I said, I heard it. I listened to it a couple of times. There were certain things about it that I wanted to bring out, that I wanted to dissect and break down, but I didn't want to do it by myself. I wanted to do it with you guys. Now, of course, the link to this interview will be in the description box, and you can go back and listen. And I wonder what an interview with him would be like now that so much information has come out, especially information about all the evidence that they had, that they claimed they presented to Daniel Cameron, and them not calling him out on it, them not bringing up any of that evidence, and them being willing to agree to a settlement that included a clause that said they had to destroy that evidence. See, that's the question that I would like to ask. Why would you agree to a settlement that had a clause in it that said you have to destroy your evidence? And you do that before the grand jury comes back with their decision. You agree to destroy your evidence in this settlement before the grand jury comes back with its decision. Why would you do that? So that's one of the questions that I would like to ask, that I would ask Ben Crump if I had that opportunity. But as you can see in this interview, not just him, but Gayle too, they were both dog whistling to white supremacy. They were both very, very careful with their wording. They were both very, very careful that they didn't come too close to that line that they knew they had better not cross, because both of them are bought and paid for. Both of them get their bread and their butter from white supremacy. And if anybody was doubtful about Ben Crump, this interview right here just pretty much says it all. Oh yeah, he was saying some pretty flowery, nice things, but you notice he wouldn't go too far. You notice he wouldn't say that this whole thing was a shit setup. He just said, as far as he was concerned, it could have been a sham proceeding. You notice he was still trying to promote that gender divide between black men and black women, instead of specifically pointing out the black men that have put their lives on the line for Breonna before she died and since her death, her murder. You notice he threw in there seems to be two different criminal justice systems in America, one for black and one for white. So all the dog whistles, all the coded words, all of them were in this interview, coming from him and Gayle King. Like I said, nobody mentioned the Louisville Metro Police Department. Nobody mentioned any riots, any protests. Nobody mentioned any of that. But she made it her business to put it out there that, first of all, the family was calling for peace. That's the first thing. The family was calling for peace. And second, that, these police officers should never have been shot, and we're so glad that they're okay and all of that. Didn't nobody say nothing about no police officers. Didn't nobody ask nobody no question about no police officers, about no rioting, no protests, no nothing. How the family felt about the protests, how the family felt about these two police officers being shot. Nobody said anything about that. But she made it her business to put it out there. We want you to know we still support the boys in blue. We still on that white supremacist team. Even though we sitting here talking about the police need to be, quote unquote, held responsible. That's not really what we mean. We really don't mean that they need to be punished. We really don't mean that they need to experience the same energy that they put out to the black community. That's not what we mean. Now, there's one other thing that I want to talk about. I'm going to move on from that. There's one other thing I want to talk about that ties into all of this gender divide and ties into how white supremacy has always tried to drive this wedge between the black man and the black woman, because they know once the black woman and the black man actually unify and actually come together, they are an unbeatable force. They are an unmatched force. When all of that melanin, when all of that power gets together and it's working towards the same goal and the same purpose. So white supremacy is big on. It's been this way since before slavery, and it's still that way. This driving this wedge between the black man and the black woman. So now, I'm sure most of you have heard about this interview that Andrew Gillum did with Tamron Hall, and it's posted up on her YouTube channel, on the Tamron Hall YouTube channel. She did this interview with Gillum and his wife, RJ. And in this interview, we learned some things. First of all, he finally came on out and admitted that he was bisexual. Well, actually, I believe the man is just straight out gay, point blank, period. I don't think that there's any bisexual involved. The man is just point blank, blank gay. And this woman who was his wife, RJ, was just acting as his cover. They call it a beard, but I just say his cover, right? He was just hiding behind all of that. And at this point, after what we saw, after what was reported, after the information that we got about what was going on in that room and the state that he was in when he was found, and what all was on the sheets and all of that, there's just absolutely no way that he could deny being gay, bisexual, something. So he had to come on out and admit that. Now, he still lied, never admitted that he went there to have sex, never admitted, that he had done drugs there and all of that. So he still flat out lied. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, and in this interview, we find out that the wife knew all the time. That Tamron Hall said that, he had told her years before their marriage that he was bisexual. So she knew. She knew what was going on. She knew what he liked. She knew what he preferred. She knew exactly what her place was and what her position was in his life. There's even one point where she admits to the reason why she stayed around and the reason why she went along with whatever and the reason why she was willing to be the cover for him. And that was because she said something about when you're standing on that stage, the adoration that you get when you're standing on that stage, and people saying, we can't wait to see you become the first lady, talking about when he was running for governor. And she's talking about, you don't know how that made me feel. You don't know how good it felt for people to be talking like that about me. So when she made that statement, and if you want to hear all of this, you can go to Tamron Hall's YouTube channel, and you can hear all the different clips from the whole interview, because she broke it down into different clips. So she pretty much let us know that was the reason why she hung around. The reason why she hung around is because she thought she was going to get a certain amount of position and a certain amount of fame. You understand what I'm saying? And a certain amount of clout and all of this from being married to him, because he was a quote unquote rising star in the Democratic Party, right? But they tried to use this with him admitting that he was supposed to be bisexual, and her being willing to stay there and talking about you don't understand. A lot of people don't really understand what bisexuality means. They think they do, but they don't, and all of this. They were trying to act like this is some kind of new brand of love. You understand what I'm saying? And that this is something that black women should get used to. Black women should get used to being married to a man that either wants to be with other men all the time, or wants to dip and dab with men, every once in a while. Because that's the way they're trying to make it seem like with Gillum. Like this was just something that he wanted to do every once in a while. Because, he's supposed to be bisexual. So he's supposed to be sexually attracted to men and to women, right? But he won't caught in no hotel room with all of that going on with women. Okay? Well, right after this interview, David Johns, and I want y'all to remember who David Johns is, because I'm going to put a picture of him in this video. And I want y'all to remember where you saw him. Where you saw him was on that interview that Malik Yoba did with the Breakfast Club. And remember the guy that had on the white t-shirt and the glasses that was doing most of the talking. And he kept on going, and he's the one that actually said that natural women aren't natural women. He's the one that actually said that having a vagina is not what makes you a woman, and having a penis is not what makes you a man. He was the one that actually said something about everybody is just too concerned with everybody else's penis and all of this kind of stuff. He was the one that was advocating for everybody to just be allowed to go to the bathroom together, whether they be children or whatever. So that's David Johns, right? And he identifies as a same gender loving man, right? That's one of the problems with LGBTQ. They just can't get it together. They can't decide what they're going to call themselves. That's the reason why they keep adding alphabets and all of that, is because they confused, okay? But anyway, this David Johns dude, this same dude that was on this interview with Malik Yoba on the Breakfast Club, he decided that he was going to go over there to Byron Allen's grill. And he was going to do an opinion piece. And you know, the griot is all about LGBT. He was going to do an opinion piece. And I'll have the link to this article in the description box, because I don't intend to read the article, because it's just a whole bunch of rambling, and it's just a whole bunch of opportunity for him to try to shout himself out and all of that. And I don't feel like reading all of that. But anyway, I do want to read the main heading and the subheading of this article. The main heading says this: Andrew Gillum provides an opportunity to celebrate diverse Black love. Exactly what is diverse Black love? Exactly what is that supposed to be? What is that supposed to mean? Diverse Black love. Opinion. Let's celebrate Andrew and R.J. Gillum for finding the freedom to define themselves and their relationship on their terms, and for making space for others to do the same. Now, in this article, he actually goes on to say something about they didn't have to share all this information with us and all of that. And even in the interview, she gets to talking about the reason why he never came out publicly and said that he was bisexual and all that is because it was their right and nobody else had the right to know and all of this kind of stuff. Well, first of all, this goes for anybody. When you want us to give you the power of life and death, when you want us to give you the power as a politician or as a doctor or as a lawyer or whatever, when you want us to give you the power through our vote or whatever, when we want to give you that type of power, the power of life and death, the power of saying who lives and who dies, the power of being able to say who goes to jail and who doesn't go to jail, who's punished and who's not punished. When we, especially as Black people, give you that type of power, yeah, we need to know everything that you got going on. We need to be able to look under every rock. We need to be able to turn every stone. We need to know everything that you got going on in your life, if we're going to give you that kind of power. Why? Because history has shown us that when we give people that type of power, if we give it to the wrong people, we're always the ones that suffer the most for it. So all of this acted like Andrew Gillum just all of a sudden decided he was just going to come out and he was just going to start explaining things because people were asking so many questions, and because people were trying to delve into his private life, and because people were trying to investigate him and all that. No, dude. The reason why people are asking questions about you and the reason why people all in your business is because you put it all out there in the street. When you decided that you was going to go lay up in this hotel room with these 2 or 3 men and allow yourself to be found in that position with all of that stuff that was going on in that room. So you got caught. We didn't come looking for it. It came to us. It was presented to us. And so now people want to know. And people have the right to know. Because these same people that you're trying to act like don't have a right to know what you really got going on and who you really are the same people that eventually you're going to want to vote for you. Because the bottom line is, if you wanted to be a bisexual or gay man or whatever, you should have went on that and done that. But you presented yourself to us as an upstanding husband, and father. That's how you presented yourself to us. We took you at face value. Now, we might have been able to look at you and might be able to tell that you had a little sugar in the tank and that, it might have been some other things going on. We had our own assumptions. We had our own ideas about things, but we pretty much kept that to ourselves because all we knew for sure was what you were showing us. But then you showed us something different. And you showed us not that we are wrong, because they're trying to act like it's black people that are wrong. It's black people that caused this. It's no. Black people ain't the ones that put you in that room. Black people, and you, there was no other black man in that room with you, or black woman. And the LGBT folks always try to act like it's a black problem. The black folks are so homophobic and transphobic. They always try to act like it's us. No, it's not us. Y'all put yourselves in certain positions, and because we don't go along with the bullshit, because we don't go along with the rhetoric, we don't go along with the propaganda, because we're not going to allow you to make us think what you want us to think, and believe what you want us to believe, and accept what you want us to accept, then that don't make us wrong. That makes us operating within our rights as human beings. But anyway, this is the point I'm trying to make. And all of these folks we're talking about now are Democrats. David John, I believe, is a Democrat. We know for a fact that Andrew Gillum and his wife are Democrats. We know for a fact that it's the Democrats that are pushing all of this LGBT stuff and promoting all of this LGBT stuff and all of that. But we also know that it's the Democrats that are always trying to cater to and pander to black women. It's the Democrats that are coming out with all of this bullshit talking about black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party and all of this kind of stuff. And black women are so important. All of this black girl magic stuff and all of this, and trying to act like, the world couldn't run and the world couldn't exist without black women. That's those liberals. That's those folks over there on the left doing all of that as far as black women are concerned. But yet, I want you to get this. I want you to pay very, very close attention to this, and I want you to get this. When it comes to a black woman being married to a man that is now admitting that he's a part of the LGBTQ group, now all of a sudden, she's just supposed to accept that. Now, this is this same strong, beautiful black woman that's got all this black girl magic. And she can just make all kinds of things happen. And she's just the backbone of the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party gonna fall apart without her and all of this. This is that same black woman. But now, this same black woman is supposed to be okay with accepting a man who can't be exclusive to her. A man who is attracted to anything or anybody other than her. So on the one hand, you the backbone of the party. You understand what I'm saying? You got all this black girl magic. You understand what I'm saying? Just leave them old straight heterosexual black men behind, because they got all this toxic masculinity, and go over here and get you a bisexual man. Go over here and get you a gay man. You understand what I'm saying? Don't deal with a man over here that can strictly want you and nobody but you. That can strictly want a woman and nobody but a woman. No. He got too much toxic masculinity. You understand what I'm saying? He might be expecting to lead some things. He might be expecting to run the household. He might be expecting to be looked up to as the man of the house. No, you go over here and you get you this twisted up bisexual dude or this gay man that prefers sleeping with other men. And in order for him to have any kind of desire towards you in his imagination, he got to imagine himself with a man. No, you be satisfied with that. Even though you're the backbone of our party. You understand what I'm saying? Even though you're the strongest thing in the black community, even though you're the backbone of the black community, you hold up the black community the same way you hold up the Democratic Party. But yet you shouldn't expect to find a heterosexual man like you that loves just you and just wants you. You're going to have to be satisfied with a man that wants to be with other men. You see how twisted that is? Black women, do you see how they play on our foolishness? On one hand, they telling you you just the best thing since sliced bread because we need your votes. But then on the other hand, they're telling you, well, maybe just maybe you're not as good as you think you are because you have to settle for this. Because the only way you can get that position that you want, the only way you can get that fame that you want, the only way you can get that recognition and that attention that you want is you got to be over here with this flaming dude instead of being with a real man. Because see, a real man, whether he be gay, bisexual, heterosexual, or what, a real man would never have put himself in a position for his family to be embarrassed like that. So see, this is what Johns is talking about when he talks about this diverse black love. No, we're supposed to celebrate black women just being satisfied with anything. Don't expect a real man, because remember, that real black man, that real masculine, heterosexual black man, he just got too much toxic masculinity. So see, this is the mind game that they play with black women. See, they wouldn't tell white women that. They wouldn't tell any other women that. They wouldn't tell Asian women and Hispanic women that. But that's the kind of bullshit that they pass over on black women. And we're supposed to be celebrating this woman staying in a marriage with a man that didn't really desire her, that didn't really want to be with her. And in order to be with her and play that role, he got to slip out, you understand what I'm saying, and get what he really wants on the outside so that he could satisfy that itch in order to come back and play this little game. So that's what they're telling you, black women, that you should be satisfied with. That's what they're telling you that you should be willing to accept and that you should celebrate that. That's what they calling now diverse black love. Now, there's one more thing I want to say about all of this when it comes to the black men and the black women. If nothing else, the Breonna Taylor case has shown us that black men are there for black women, that black men will ride for black women, that black men are willing to die for black women, that black men are willing to put themselves on the line for black women. The Breonna Taylor case shows us that. So right now, what I'm wondering is, where are all the coons and all the bed wenches, especially those with all of them immigrant flags that's always got something to say when something jumps off, and they always talking about go get you a white man, or they always talking about how black American men treat black American women and all of this kind of stuff. Where they at now? When you got Kendrick Wilson ready to put his life on the line, ready to put a mark on his head for Breonna Taylor, and Breonna Taylor dead. But he's so serious about getting justice for her and bringing forth all this corruption that he's willing to put himself out there like that for somebody that he possibly didn't know. Because so far we haven't read anything about those two having any prior knowledge of each other or any kind of acquaintance or anything like that. So where are all those bed wenches that always got something negative to say about black men, especially about foundational black American men? Every time something jumps off, oh, black men this, and this is how black men treat black women, and black men need to step up, and black American men need to do this, and black women need to leave these black men alone, and all of this kind of stuff. Okay, where are they now? Now that Kenneth Walker, Kendrick Wilson, Jason Black, black men out there in the streets protesting, going to jail, getting arrested, getting beat down, and all of this behind justice for Breonna Taylor. Where they at now? Why you don't hear none of them saying nothing about that? You don't hear any of them championing what these black men are doing, what these foundational black American men are doing as far as Breonna Taylor is concerned. But you still got Ben Crump coming in an interview trying to again promote that gender divide. And you got the Democrats and the black LGBTQ telling these strong, beautiful black girl magic women that they ought to settle for a man that can't really give his all to them because he want to be somewhere else doing something else with somebody else. So that was all I wanted to bring to y'all. I just wanted to bring out certain points that were raised in this interview with Ben Crump. And I really wanted to drive home some of this stuff about them really pushing this gender divide to keep the black man and the black woman at odds with each other, because they know, we might not know, or some of us don't, but they know exactly what will happen if there's any real unity and cohesion between the black man and the black woman. So the link to this article that this David Johns dude did about Andrew Gillum and his wife, the link to that will be in the description box, as well as the link to this interview with Ben Crump. And it was something else that I told y'all I was going to try to post. I was going to try to find it and I was going to post it. I'll think about what it was and I'll have that posted as well. Or I'll go back, when I go back and edit, I'll hear what I said and I'll make sure that I post that too, because it was another article that I said I was going to find and I was going to post that as well. But you know, y'all please like this video. Please share this information. Please share the video. Have these conversations like I always say. Black women, let's get it together. You understand what I'm saying? And let's understand that the black man is not our enemy. Foundational black women, black American women, understand. Foundational black American men, that's not our enemy. We are dealing with the same enemy. We all have the exact same enemy, and that's white supremacy. And stop allowing white supremacy, whether they're doing it through the Democrats or whether they're doing it through other women, or whether they're doing it through these celebrity women, or however it is they doing it. Stop letting white supremacy keep you separated from the very thing that you need to be joining forces with. And that's your black man. So stop letting them play that mind trick on you. You know, stop letting them think that you're more important than the black man and you got it going on better than the black man because you got a little degree or whatever. And on top of that degree, you probably got 50, 60, 70, $120,000 worth of student loan debt. You know, stop letting them blow your head up like that. Stop allowing these folks to use you. And come on back down here to earth with the rest of us and get on code. Stop listening to these immigrant bad wenches and these and even the FBA bad wenches, because we got some FBA bad wenches too. Stop listening to them. You know, when they go out and put all of that negativity out there about black men and all this negativity out here about black male, toxic masculinity and all that. Stop with all that foolishness. And get on code. Get on code with the rest of the family. So we can finally start focusing on our real enemy and destroy our real enemy, which is the system of white supremacy. But I'll make sure to have all of this stuff in the description box for y'all. And I'll be back as soon as I get back. And I want to again thank, I think it's either ML or M1 More, for sending me that video of Crump's interview, so that, you know, we could decide, so that we could dissect this thing together and we could go over this thing together. So, you know, y'all go back, listen to it in its entirety. You know what I'm saying? And when you listen to it, you might see points that I didn't come up with. But we need to know what we're listening to. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, some shit might sound good, but what is it that you're not saying? It's not so much what you're saying. What is it that you're not saying? What is it as a black person that you won't allow yourself to say? And you have been given this national platform. You understand what I'm saying? Where you could really, really make some difference. What is it that you won't say? What line is it that you refuse to cross? So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. For those of you who are subscribed to the channel, again, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for your support. I want to say thank you for the comments that I get. And I want y'all to know that, you know, we all in this together. We all in this together. Hit that bell notification so you can be notified when we upload. And y'all have a good night.